لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع ذنوبنا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم محمد
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل
بسم الله
محمد.
الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد، روي عن الإمام محمد التقي الجواد عليه السلام: من وثق بالله أراه السرور ومن توكل عليه كفاه الأمور. والثقة بالله حسن لا يتحسن فيه إلا مؤمن أمين. والتوكل على الله نجاة من كل سوء وحرز من كل عدو. صلوات على محمد وآله.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Started with a hadith from our ninth Imam, Muhammad Taqi al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. His passing, the martyrdom, was commemorated this week. The hadith loosely translates, وَمَنْ وَثَقَ بِاللَّهِ أَرَاهُ السُّرُورُ. It says, whoever takes hold, relies upon, entrusts themselves to Allah, أَرَاهُ السُّرُورُ. He will show him felicity. Whoever relies upon God, Allah will show him felicity. وَمَنْ تَوَكَّلْ عَلَيْهِ. Whoever depends upon him, كَفَاهُ الْأَمُورِ. God becomes sufficient for him in affairs. وَالثِّقَةَ بِاللَّهِ حِسْنٌ. And this trust in God, this grabbing hold of God, لا يتحسن فيه إلا مؤمن أمين. This reliance on God is a sanctuary, is a fortress which encloses none other in the safe believer. وَتَوَكَّلَ عَلَى اللَّهِ. And reliance upon God is نَجَاتٌ مِنْ كُلِّ سُوءٍ, is the means of saving oneself from every ill, from every evil. وَمِنْ كُلِّ وَحِرْزٌ مِنْ كُلِّ عَدُوٍ. And there's a protection from every enemy. And in these few words, Imam Jawad Salamullahi alayhi captures the fundamental God-centricity of Islam. This is a religion calling us to build our personality upon our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to seek to become God-centered individuals, to be a Muslim. It's an active process to direct ourselves towards God. The Quran says, وَمَن يُسْلِمْ وَجْهَهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. Whosoever directs themselves towards God, وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. And he's a doer of good. فَقَدْ يَسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. And he is a doer of good, whoever directs themselves towards God. It's an active process. The Arabic is in the present tense. He is directing himself towards God. He is a doer of good. He has held on to the firmest grip. It's a continual process. It's also a critical one, an active one. This belief in God is not a one-time affair. But yes, Trinity doesn't make sense to me. I don't worship idols, so I believe in God. No, it's about a continuous rejection of false idols, a continuous reappraisal of my ideas, my beliefs, and my actions. And actually, the critical engagement comes first. In that most radical formulation of monotheism, which is La ilaha illallah, the La comes first. It's a thinking religion, by the way, despite what we see. It's a thinking religion. The Ayat al-Kursi, it says, وَمَن يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ. It says, whoever continually denies Taghut, again, present tense, whoever's in a process of rejecting false aspirations, false idols, false goals, وَيُؤْمِن بِاللَّهِ, and is believing in God, again, is grabbed onto the firmest of handholds. Submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, obedience to God, dedication to God simultaneously comes with critical engagement, with an active process, with conscious reflection, an aspiration to better our ideas and better ourselves. And it's through this direction towards God, as a continual movement, that we can start to display the beauty of godliness in all that we do. Once He becomes our direction and our criterion, it is the beauty of Allah which starts to manifest itself through us. And what better objective is there in this life than to display those beautiful human qualities that each and every one of us possesses? We are bearers of that divine trust. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to Adam, I breathe within you my own spirit. This divine spirit exists in each and every one of us. Islam calls us to consciously, willfully, with thought, reassessing our beliefs, reassessing our actions, direct ourselves towards God, relying on nothing other than Him, such that it is His beauty which comes forth in all that we do. You see, we have to continuously assess the value of our beliefs and the values of our actions. Islam, as a formal process, is nothing. It's meaningless unless it takes us in that direction towards God. Unless this reliance upon God is such that God starts to manifest Himself. This is where the hadith of the Imam, which we mentioned, comes in. The one who's truly relied upon God, God takes care of his affairs. It is God manifesting Himself in his actions. The one who is consumed with Ar-Rahman, of course, becomes a means of Rahmah. The one who is devoted to Al-Ghafur doesn't think twice but to spread forgiveness amongst his peers. See, this direction towards God, this belief, this practice is nothing unless it moves us in the direction of God. And this goes throughout, even in those most apparently mundane actions of our religious teachings, our beliefs and our practices. As we approach the days of Hajj, we see that this phenomenon of Hajj, this huge phenomenon of Hajj, those of us who have the opportunity to go may be accepted, those who haven't, God give us that opportunity soon. But all of us would have seen what a huge impact, just the visual spectacle, even from afar, this tremendous statement of unity and diversity. We're blessed to have guests with us today. From the Muslim Student Council, people who are regularly here, we're wondering where all the people come from. And we're blessed to have with us this group of young aspiring students, and their tagline is unity and diversity. So we see this in the Hajj, this visual spectacle. But beyond those broad social and obvious bearers, we can't deny that the Hajj rituals themselves are arguably the most ritualistic and mundane in Islam. So this is the most non-rational thing in Islam. To walk around a black box, to come forth backwards and forth, to do something at a certain time. Pure devotional, ritual, mundane acts. But even in this, it is nothing if it doesn't have value in moving us towards God and godliness. In that famous tradition of Imam Sajjad, just to close this first khutbah, just mentioning a short part of it. He said to his companion Shibli, he said, I've been for Hajj. He came back, he met him. I'm paraphrasing. He said, you've been for Hajj? He said, yes, I've been for Hajj. He said, did you stop at the miqat? He said, yeah, I stopped at the miqat. He said, did you take off your clothes? Did you take off your stitched clothes? Did you replace them with those 2 unstitched pieces of cloth, did he intend to go to the Kaaba? He said, yes, I stopped at the miqat. I took off my clothes. So when you stopped at the miqat, did you decide to step down from actions of sin? He said, no, I didn't. So when you took off your stitched clothes, did you take off the clothes of hypocrisy and showmanship? And to mix yourselves in issues of doubt? He said, no, I didn't. So then you didn't go to the miqat. And you didn't wear the ihram. See, even the most apparently mundane actions in Islam, all the way through to the fundamental beliefs of Tawheed, are nothing unless they move us in the direction of God and godliness, unless they move us towards becoming a better, more complete human being. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal-Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr. إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى بيت الطيبين الطاهرين. أما بعد، السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. In the sessions which I had the opportunity of sharing this morning with our friends who are here and with us this weekend, we discussed the apparent divine wisdom in diversity as being a means and an opportunity for each and every one of us amongst this fact of difference in society, difference in culture, difference in language, difference in gender, difference in perspective, to learn through each other, to grow beyond our own limits, to move in the direction of God and godliness. We saw how the Quranic conception of an idealized ummah places itself within the center of human society. Shuhada al-nas. Quran calls for an ummatan wasatan, a median community, which is a means of testament for the sake of humankind. Becomes a model, drawing towards godliness, calling towards goodness, positive contributions which are more general to each and every one of us. This beautiful vision of Islam, where the Muslim is integrated, contributed, flourishing, driving growth, is something to be very, very proud of, enthused of, or enthused by, inspired by. Yet we have to wonder when we look around us, what has happened to the Muslims? This vision of Rasulullah, of a community which calls to good, which is a source of positive contribution, where is it today? We look around us, we see the followers of that prophet, whose invitation to Medina was to bring non-Muslims to peace. We see today the followers of that religion are busy killing themselves, or funding each other to kill each other, or sitting silently as we see oppressions against ourselves. We see the followers of a religion and a prophet who asked us to keep our families together. Sil bi rahmah. To keep our families together, even if it be through a glass of water. Or in the words of Imam Rida, his grandson, is simply by not harassing each other. Keep our families together. We see families divided. We see the breakdown of nuclear families even in Islam, even amongst Muslims. The followers of that religion, which began with the revelation Iqra, are the lowest of contributors to new knowledge. We see the followers of that prophet whose revelation says, Waylun lil mutaffifin. Woe be to those who defraud. Woe be to those who give less weight than they promise. See, Muslim nations are top of the corruption lists. In Bradford, it costs more to get insurance on a phone here in the UK. Leave abroad. Like I say Bradford, I've lived in Bradford, I see people smiling and laughing. I mention Bradford because it's a Muslim population. You can't say this is somebody else's problem. It's the same in Birmingham. You know, people want to have car insurance with a different address because it's higher in Birmingham. And Birmingham is full of what? One of the most densely Muslim populated places in the country. Why is it that Muslims, instead of being part of the solution to human crisis, is part of the problem in human crisis? Look at that beautiful vision of Rasulullah of the Quran, of a community which contributes, shares its goodness. Yet look at the situation, even here in the UK. It's astounding that the prison population in the UK of Muslims is twice that of the general population. It's twice as many people, proportion, 10% of Muslims, 10% of prisons are filled with Muslims in the UK. And there's only 5% of us in the wider population. And we follow that prophet known as Al-Amin, the trustworthy, the truthful. And he was known as Al-Amin to his enemies. Yet here we fill the prisons. Homelessness in the UK, twice as many, almost 3 times as many. People in homeless shelters in the UK are Muslims than the wider population. Where have we gone wrong? Islam calls us to be bearers of good, bearers of divine qualities, to be Rahman, to be Ghafur, to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. To direct ourselves towards God, to judge ourselves according to the quality of our action. Yes, the Quran sets our aspirations high. You know, it says that you are the bearers of this divine responsibility. You are this ummah al-wasat, and you can be this model. You know, and the prophetic example is par excellence. There's no better example than the Prophet, who made those movements towards women empowerment, to welfare state, to education. But never once did the Prophet state, to my knowledge anyway, end world poverty. Never once did he say, free every slave. Never once did he say, eradicate ill health. No, his strategy for reform, of course, he designed all such things and moved us towards all such things. But his strategy for reform was far more simple, far more pragmatic, far more directed at me and you. He said, this prophet, this magnanimous social reformer, who taught us the intricacies of Tawheed, who taught us about the details of the resurrection, what will happen in the grave, the Sirat, the Mizan, all of these things. And then he summarized his mission in this beautiful statement, his strategy for reform. He said, Alaykum bi-makarim al-akhlaq. He said, upon you. You know, this whole huge picture of a modern ummah, reform, progress, development, can bring it all down to this. Alaykum bi-makarim al-akhlaq. Upon you and upon me is to become the best of people, to improve our characters. فَإِنِّي بَعَثْتُ بِهَا. It says, because this is why I have been sent. Look, to change the world around us, we must change the world within. Through moving, directing ourselves towards God, building our personality and our relationship with God, and assessing everything we believe, everything we do, in terms of its value in moving us to become a better human being. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Asr. Inna al-insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihati wa tawasaw bil-haqqi wa tawasaw bis-sabr. We pray for all of those who have gone for Hajj that they come back safely, and we have a safe Hajj this year. We pray that they come back and rejuvenate their communities around the world. We pray that the earth becomes filled with justice that is being filled with oppression. We pray for the success of these guys who have come here in their years to come, and the activities that they intend to do over the next few years in their respective universities. And for all of those who are with us, let's recite one Surah Al-Fatiha for those of our families and friends who are no longer with us. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر